This is absolutely wild, ladies and gentlemen, because according to Stephen A. Smith, we now have some new reports that completely shift the conversation, and it all surrounds one player in particular. Stephen A. said straight up on his show that while the Lakers roster looks strong on paper, there are still gaps if they want to be viewed as legitimate championship favorites. He pointed directly to the center position, saying that Los Angeles, despite having DeAndre Ayton as the starter, is still one or two role players away from truly solidifying that front court. Stephen A. made it clear, depth at the 5 spot matters. He mentioned Jackson Hayes, acknowledged his athleticism, but didn't sugarcoat it. Offensively, Hayes is limited, and if Ayton doesn't hit his ceiling this year, the Lakers could be in the exact same position they found themselves in last season, scrambling for reliable backup minutes. And that's where Stephen A. brought up a very interesting name, Thomas Bryant. According to him, Bryant isn't some superstar piece, but he represents something the Lakers need: experience, toughness, and flexibility. Stephen A. highlighted the fact that Bryant has playoff experience, having been part of deep runs, and said that kind of presence on a bench is never something to dismiss. He pointed to Bryant's skill set, a player who can finish inside, who can stretch the floor, who understands his role, and stressed that those qualities matter more than people realize when you're talking about championship rotation. Stephen A. even noted that the Lakers had Bryant before, and although those stints were short-lived, a third run could make sense if the organization commits to giving him a more meaningful role this time around. And beyond just filling minutes, he argued that having someone like Bryant provides what he called insurance, because we know in the NBA, injuries happen, rotations get tight, and suddenly you're depending on depth you didn't think you'd need. Now, of course, Stephen A. didn't say this was some blockbuster signing waiting to happen. He admitted it's not a guarantee, not the most likely move, but he explained why it's worth monitoring. Because at this point in the offseason, teams are combing through every possible option to prepare for training camp and preseason. And his larger point wasn't just about Bryant himself, but about the Lakers' front court as a whole. Are they really deep enough? Do they truly have the stability behind Ayton? That's the question he kept going back to. He reminded viewers that while Ayton has the talent to be absolutely electric in his words, there are still concerns about consistency. Stephen A. admitted he's higher on Ayton than a lot of critics, but he didn't shy away from the reality. If Ayton struggles or isn't dominant, then what? Then it's Jackson Hayes. Then it's Maxi Kleber. And Stephen A. stressed that those options, while intriguing, are not guaranteed. Kleber is coming into camp in the best shape of his life, doing things that have people buzzing, but again, it's projection, not proof. So, Stephen A.'s conclusion was that the Lakers might not desperately need another center, but it wouldn't hurt to bring in one more proven, reliable veteran to stabilize the rotation. And in his view, Thomas Bryant fits that description better than most of the names floating around right now. Now, Stephen A. didn't stop there, folks. He doubled down on the Thomas Bryant talk, pointing out that this is a guy who just came off an NBA Finals appearance, still only 27 years old, and has shown flashes of being able to stretch the floor with that three-point shot. Stephen A. made it clear, it's not about Bryant being some game-changer. It's about whether the Lakers have the right balance between star power and depth. And his challenge was simple. Do you add another body like Bryant to reinforce the front court? Or do you start thinking bigger, looking toward a larger trade that could shake up the roster in a meaningful way? He was very blunt about it. Stephen A. said, "Look, Gabe Vincent? Solid. But if moving him helps you address a more pressing need, you consider it. You don't touch Austin Reeves. That's obvious. He's a foundational piece. But Vincent, role players like that? If a deal's there, you explore it." That was his whole angle. The Lakers have depth? Yes. But are those guys good enough when the lights are the brightest in May and June? That's the question he pressed over and over. And Stephen A. wasn't shy about pointing out that some of the names at the end of the Lakers' rotation, the two-way contracts, the developmental pieces, the untested guys trying to earn a spot, sure, they're fine for the long-term outlook of the franchise, But when it comes to competing for a title, they're not the answer. He laid it out plainly. Those players are nice story. They can flash in January or February. They can give you a burst in a regular season game, but that's not the same as being someone you can depend on when the lights are brightest. Stephen A. put it bluntly, saying, "You need players that a coach can throw out there in the conference final and not even hesitate. That's what depth really is. Depth isn't just bodies. It's trust. It's reliability. It's knowing that in the biggest possessions of the season, you can look down your bench and call a name, and that player will deliver without blinking." And that's where he circled back to DeAndre Ayton. Stephen A. emphasized again that Ayton has to be that guy. He has to own the paint. He has to set the tone. He has to be the anchor that stabilizes everything the Lakers do. Because if Ayton isn't that, then all of these conversations about the Lakers' chances, about their ceiling, about their ability to hang with Denver, Boston, Milwaukee, whoever it may be, they all fall apart. Ayton has to impose his will. Stephen A. made it clear. This is not a time for Ayton to be passive, to disappear for stretches, to pick and choose his moment. If the Lakers want to be legitimate contenders, he has to be consistent, dominant, and engaged from start to finish. But beyond Ayton, Stephen A. reminded everyone that the Lakers are essentially gambling. They're rolling the dice with Jackson Hayes, banking on his athleticism and energy translating when the stage gets bigger. They're counting on Maxi Kleber, who's had flashes, but who has never truly been leaned on in this type of championship or bust environment. These are bets, plain and simple. They're hopes that when the Lakers call on those guys in May or June, they'll rise to the occasion. And Stephen A. was clear. Hope is not a strategy. That's why the name Thomas Bryant keeps surfacing in all these discussions. Stephen A. said it directly. No, Bryant isn't a star. He's not going to command double teams or shift a defensive game plan, but what he is dependable. He's physical, he's tough, and he understands the demands of playoff basketball. He knows what it's like to battle against size, against pressure, against the kind of physicality that defines the postseason. Stephen A. argued that alone gives him real value, because reliability at the highest level is rare. He made the point that Bryant doesn't need to be spectacular. He just needs to be solid. He just needs to hold his ground, and that's something coaches crave when everything is on the line. And Stephen A. drove it home with this thought. When you look at teams that win titles, it's never just about the stars. Yes, you need your LeBron, your AD, your Ayton to carry the heavy load. But championships are always decided by the guys in the middle of the rotation, the players who swing a series by giving you 12 quality minutes that don't sink the ship. That's why he kept saying Thomas Bryant's name with so much emphasis. In Stephen A.'s eyes, Bryant embodies that type of role player who doesn't wow you on paper, proves his worth when the games matter most. And then the conversation shifted, because Stephen A. wasn't just talking about depth. He pivoted to the blockbuster that shook the league, Luka Doncic to the Lakers. He reminded the audience that this trade caught everybody off guard. He said, not just the fans, not just the media, but Jeannie Buss herself admitted she didn't see it coming. Even Luka didn't see it coming. That's how wild this was. Stephen A. emphasized that the deal blindsided everyone, including people in the Lakers' own front office. He went on to say that while the Mavericks fan base was devastated and Luka himself was emotional about the move, the Lakers did what great organizations do. They seized an opportunity nobody thought was real and pulled off what Stephen A. flat out called a robbery. Luka was the crown jewel. And now, as Stephen A. said, the Lakers' future is not LeBron James, it's Luka Doncic. That's the guy. That's your building block. Stephen A. then connected it back to the bigger picture. Luka just signed that 3-year, $130+ million extension. He's in the best shape of his life. He's coming off monster performances internationally with Slovenia, and now the pressure shifts. It's no longer about the surprise of the trade. It's about what Luka does in purple and gold moving forward. Stephen A. was emphatic. If Luka delivers, the Lakers are immediate title contenders. If he doesn't, or if the roster around him doesn't hold up, then this gamble could look very different down the line. And his conclusion was clear. He said, The Lakers have enough to win a championship right now, yes. But if you want to be ironclad, if you want to remove the doubt, you're still one piece away. Whether that's adding someone like Thomas Bryant for stability or swinging for another major deal, you can't stand still in today's NBA. You've got to stay aggressive. It's shaping up to be a wild ride this upcoming season, and honestly, Lakers fans should buckle up. Things may feel a little dry news-wise right now, but trust me, that calm never lasts long in Los Angeles. With this franchise, the spotlight is always on, and something big is always around the corner. That's why we're here, to keep you updated every single step of the way with fresh Lakers content, breaking it all down the moment it happens. Thank you all for watching and supporting the channel. It means the world. This community is growing because of the passion and energy of Lakers Nation. And together, we're about to experience another unforgettable journey. From training camp to opening night, from the highs to the lows, we'll be covering it all. And you better believe the drama will be there. That's just the nature of this team. So stay tuned, because boy, oh boy, once the season tips off, it's going to be electric. Storylines are set, rivalries are brewing, and the pressure is higher than ever. The next few weeks are going to be nothing short of thrilling, and you won't want to miss a second of it. Cheers, Lakers fans. The ride is only just beginning. We've got some breaking news to get into today, folks, because the Los Angeles Lakers just made a move that, at first glance, might look small, but, according to Stephen A. Smith, it's the kind of move that tells you exactly where the Lakers' mindset is right now. Late in August, the Lakers signed 7-footer Kyler Kelly to an Exhibit 10 training camp deal, and Stephen A. went off about it. He said, "Listen, nobody is out here saying Kyler Kelly is about to walk in and change the NBA. That's not what this is about. What this is about is the Lakers understanding the one thing they did not have last season: depth in the front court. That was their Achilles' heel. You had Anthony Davis carrying too much of a load. You had Jackson Hayes being asked to do more than he should have been asked to do. And once the injuries piled up, the Lakers were stuck playing small ball lineups they didn't even want to play. This move? It's about insurance. It's about preparation. And it's about not being caught off guard again. And Stephen A. isn't wrong. Kelly is 7 feet tall, mobile for his size, and has shown he can protect the rim. Last season in the G League with South Bay, he averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, and over 2 blocks per game. That's no joke. And Stephen A. made it clear. You're not signing this man because he's going to be the star. You're signing him because he's a safety net. He's a worker. He's a defender. And if you think for 1 second that the Lakers didn't notice how he was named to the 2024 NBA G League All-Defensive Team, you're not paying attention. That's why they went and got him. Now, of course, Stephen A. also reminded fans not to get carried away. Is Kyler Kelly going to be a huge part of the Lakers' championship run? Probably not. But let me tell you something. Depth matters. One injury, one foul trouble night, one matchup in the playoffs, and suddenly you're calling on that third-string center. And the Lakers, unlike last year, refuse to be in a position where they don't have that option. This is exactly the point. Kelly's contract isn't guaranteed. It's an Exhibit 10 deal, meaning he'll come to camp, compete, and if he gets cut, he still gets a bonus and can stick with the South Bay Lakers. But Stephen A. stressed how important even that competition is. You bring guys like this in because they push everybody else. They keep Hayes on his toes. They keep Aiden on his toes. They make Christian Coco prove himself. This is how you build a team culture, competition at every single position. And you know what? Stephen A. is absolutely right again. We saw last year how quickly things can collapse when your roster isn't deep enough. At one point, the Lakers had no choice but to run small lineups, forcing guys like Dorian Finney-Smith into roles they weren't supposed to be in. The Lakers clearly don't want that happening again. They want size, they want shot blocking, they want options, and that's exactly what this Kyler Kelly signing represents. Now, nobody here is saying Kyler Kelly is going to average 20 points or lock down Nikola Jokic tomorrow. That's not the story. The story, as Stephen A. said, is that the Lakers are learning from their mistakes, addressing their weaknesses, and preparing for the grind of a full NBA season. And when you're chasing a championship, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. So let's dive deeper into this situation, because Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when the discussion turned to what Kyler Kelly's signing could mean for the Lakers' rotation. According to Stephen A., so this is one of those low-risk, high-reward moves that could quietly turn into something more significant than people think. He said, "Listen, you've got people out here laughing at the idea that Kyler Kelly could push for a backup center role. I'm telling you right now, don't dismiss it. Don't sit there and act like this young brother can't play. Because the truth is, he's got size, he's got length, and he's got that shot-blocking instinct you simply cannot teach. And when you've got that, you can find a way to stay on the floor in this league." Now, Stephen A. pointed out something important. The Lakers' backup center position is still unsettled. Sure, you've got Jackson Hayes, and you've got Maxi Kleber hanging around as well, but as Stephen A. noted, Maxi Kleber, that's not a traditional five. That's a stretch big, somebody who's far more comfortable around the perimeter. That's not going to be your insurance policy when Anthony Davis needs help down low. Kleber is a solid player, no doubt, but he's in his 30s, he's on an expiring contract, and the Lakers know as well as anybody that his future with this franchise is uncertain. That's why they're keeping the door open, bringing in somebody like Kelly, and saying, "Look, if you can compete, if you can hold your own, we'll give you a real shot." And honestly, he's right. Stephen A. even referenced Kyler Kelly's history with the Lakers organization, saying, "People forget that last year during the Winter Showcase, this kid went out there and put up 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 blocks. That's not something you just brush aside. That tells you he's got defensive instincts, he's got timing, and that's something this Lakers team desperately needs in its depth chart." Now, when you compare Kelly to someone like Maxi Kleber, you see the difference. Kleber is more of a stretch big, someone who spaces the floor, while Kelly is a true rim protector, much more in line with a player like Jackson Hayes. And Stephen A. hammered that home. The reason this move intrigues me is because it gives the Lakers another body that can actually challenge shots at the rim. You don't want to be caught in a situation like last year where you've got AD and Hayes as your only real bigs, and when injuries hit, you're stuck playing small ball lineups that just don't hold up against the elite teams. That's what this is about. Options. And let's not forget, Kelly has put in work in the G League. Over 100 career G League games, nearly 60 starts, averaging double digits in scoring with strong rebounding and block numbers. He also had a solid college career at Oregon State. This isn't some random 7-footer they pulled off the street. This is a guy who's been grinding, and Stephen A. respects that. When you're 7 feet tall, when you've got rebounding instincts, when you've got that shot-blocking ability, you've got the kind of tools coaches salivate over. You can't teach size, you can't teach that timing around the rim, and the Lakers are wise enough to know that it's worth taking a shot on him. And Stephen A. added something I thought was crucial. If it doesn't work, so what? You cut him. It's not a trade. You didn't give up anything. But if it does work, and this young man turns out to be better than people thought, suddenly you've got a legitimate backup center on your hands. That's the type of move that can pay dividends later in the season, especially come playoff time when depth is everything. Now, while all of this was going on, Stephen A. also pivoted to Luka Doncic and his performances at Eurobasket. He made it clear, this man, Luka Doncic, is just different. I don't care if it's Eurobasket, I don't care if it's NBA competition. The fact of the matter is, when you watch Luka Doncic right now, in the best shape we've ever seen him in, you're seeing a magician on the floor. A man who can score from anywhere, who can pass with the best of them, and who manipulates defenses like almost no one else in the game today. Oh, and it's not just NBA players saying this. Stephen A. pointed out how Luka's international competition respects him. You've got guys overseas going up against him saying flat out, "You can't guard this man with just one defender. He's too versatile, too smart, too skilled. He makes passes that only a handful of people on this planet can even think of making." That's not me saying it. That's his peers saying it after facing him in live competition. That tells you all you need to know. And Stephen A. wrapped his Luka take with one of his trademark passionate lines. Ladies and gentlemen, if Luka Doncic keeps this up, if he maintains this conditioning, there is no reason in hell why the Dallas Mavericks can't make serious noise this season. They might be a piece away. Yes, Rob Pelinka, do your job. But Luka is that dude. He is special. And if the Lakers or anybody else think they're just going to breeze past him, they've got another thing coming. Shoot. So between the Lakers adding insurance with Kyler Kelly and Luka Doncic looking like a man on a mission, this offseason is setting up storylines that are going to define the year. And as Stephen A. would say, you better not sleep on it. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on the Kyler Kelly signing and how you feel about the idea of him going head-to-head with players like Maxi Kleber or Jackson Hayes. Do you see him making an impact right away, or do you think it's more of a long-term play? I'd really like to hear what you guys think, because this is one of those moves that can go under the radar but still spark plenty of discussion. As always, I truly appreciate you all for tuning in, sharing your opinions, and being part of these conversations. This channel only works because of you, the fans, and your passion for the game. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment with your perspective, and subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss any future updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves, your families, and each other. See you all in the next one. Cheers. Tonight on the channel, I've got something Stephen A. Smith said on his show that absolutely blew me away, folks. He made a point that I need to share with you all because it changes the way we view one of the Lakers' off-season moves, and I mean in a huge way. Stephen A. was emphatic. This is way better than we initially thought. While everyone's been focused on the big names, Marcus Smart, DeAndre Ayton, even some of the other rumored targets, there's one player in particular who's flown under the radar, yet according to Stephen A., could have a massive impact. That player is Jake Laravia, and the details coming out now make it clear that this is one of those under-the-radar, absolute steal that Rob Pelinka pulled off in this wild offseason. Stephen A. didn't mince words. He said, "People sleep on this at their own peril." Jake Laravia is not just a spot-up shooter. He's a multi-dimensional player who can contribute on both ends of the floor. And at 23 years old, his upside is insane. Let's break that down because it's exactly what makes this so intriguing. Laravia signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Lakers on June 30th. And when it happened, a lot of fans shrugged. Free agency had just opened, there were bigger names floating around, and this signing didn't get the hype it deserved. But now, Stephen A. highlighted that, with some new reports and stats, Laravia's signing is actually better than any of us imagined. Let's start with his late-season numbers from 2023 to 24. In his last 8 games, Laravia put up 20 points per game on exceptional efficiency, shooting better from 3 than from the field overall. And those final 3 games, folks, he dropped 32, 28, and 29 points. Stephen A. said on air, "That's not a fluke. That's a young player heating up at the right time, showing he can score efficiently and impact the game immediately." For a Lakers bench that struggled mightily last year, particularly with scoring, this is an absolute game-changer. Defensively, this is where Stephen A. really leaned in. He pointed out Laravia's perimeter defense grades for 2024-25. A- in isolation defense, a C++ in ball screen navigation, and a B in on-ball chase defense. He also showed good instincts with lane steals and on-ball puck disruptions. Stephen A. noted, "This is a guy who can come off the bench, defend multiple positions, and actually make the Lakers better when the starters rest. He's not just another 3 and D player, he's an all-around contributor. And that's the kicker. He's only 23 years old. At that age, a player shooting 42.3% from 3 with defensive versatility is exactly the kind of talent the Lakers needed to bolster their bench and maintain playoff competitiveness." Stephen A. also discussed the scouting aspect, emphasizing that the Lakers had been monitoring Laravia for a while. He said, "This isn't a random pickup. They've been watching him, studying his development, and they got him for $6 million a year. That is an absolute robbery in today's market. He compared Laravia favorably to other bench options and stressed that this signing fills a void that the Lakers desperately needed addressed: consistent, smart scoring off the bench, paired with defensive versatility and high basketball IQ. Now, let's look at his recent history. Laravia played last season's split between the Kings and Memphis Grizzlies. He averaged 6 points per game combined. But, as Stephen A. highlighted, raw stats don't tell the whole story. What matters is how he finishes games, how he performs in high-leverage situations, and the trajectory of a 23-year-old who is still developing. Laravia has shown glimpses of being able to carry scoring responsibility in short bursts while also staying disciplined on defense. Stephen A. pointed out, "If you don't see the potential here, you're missing the bigger picture. This is a guy who can change the second unit entirely." In addition to scoring and defense, Laravia brings size, length, and versatility, exactly the type of player the Lakers needed to complement Marcus Smart, Ayton, and the rest of the roster. Stephen A. made it clear that this is not just a depth move, it's strategic roster construction. He emphasized that having a young player like Laravia allows the Lakers to maintain flexibility while having a real impact on both ends. For Pelinka, this is a chess move, acquiring a high upside, under-the-radar talent without sacrificing the financial flexibility the team has worked hard to build this offseason. Stephen A. also touched on the mental side of Laravia's game, noting his confidence and composure despite limited opportunities early in his career. That, combined with his finishing ability and defensive awareness, makes him a potential X-factor for the Lakers. Laravia isn't just a rotation player. He could very well become a cornerstone of their bench strategy. And Stephen A. repeatedly called attention to this on the show, saying, "This is the kind of signing that doesn't grab headlines immediately, but 2 months into the season, you'll see how critical he becomes." So, as your narrator, sharing Stephen A. Smith's perspective here, it's clear Jake Laravia's signing is quietly one of the most impactful moves of the Lakers' offseason. He brings scoring, defense, youth, and versatility all at a bargain. The Lakers now have the kind of bench presence that can keep them competitive in playoff matchups. And Stephen A. is right. This could very well end up being one of the smartest low-key acquisitions in recent Lakers history. The only question now is how quickly Frank Vogel, or whoever's coaching, integrates him and leverages all these skills to maximize impact, both offensively and defensively. All right, folks, let me break down something Stephen A. Smith said on his show that really puts this Jake Laravia signing into perspective. Stephen A. was crystal clear. This is way more impactful than most fans realize. He emphasized that Laravia shot 42.3% from 3 combined last year, and he's a career 37% three-point shooter. Now, keep in mind, this is a player who started his career with Memphis and finished last season with the Sacramento Kings. He's bounced around a little, but the moment you give him a firm role, he performed. And Stephen A. stressed that it's exactly that reliability and versatility that makes him such a valuable pickup for the Lakers. Stephen A. also highlighted something that not enough people are talking about: the synergy between Laravia and Marcus Smart. Small sample size, sure, but the impact was notable. Opposing teams shot just 26% from 3 when Smart and Laravia shared the floor last season, 10% below league average. Stephen A. called that stat a glaring sign of the defensive upside Jake brings to the table, and he made a point of giving credit to resources like PB Stats for quantifying it. This isn't just about isolated numbers. This is about how Laravia can contribute in real game scenarios alongside an elite perimeter defender like Smart. Think about it. The Lakers now have both Marcus Smart and Jake Laravia. Stephen A. made it clear that pairing these two gives Los Angeles a serious defensive tandem off the bench, one that can hold down the perimeter and disrupt opposing offenses. He said, "This is the kind of duo that can change second-unit matchups, limit threes, and create transition opportunities for the starters when they rest." And the beauty of it is that Laravia isn't just a defensive asset. He's young, 23 years old, and an efficient scorer. In the final stretch of last season, we saw him put up 20 points a game over his last 8 contests, with back-to-back 30-plus point performances. Stephen A. called it a glimpse at what he can be when given the minute, and a sign that the Lakers may have found a hidden gem. Now, let's talk role and fit, because this is where it gets interesting. CBS Sports has some graphics showing the projected Lakers rotations, but Stephen A. pointed out that Laravia's versatility doesn't always get the recognition it deserves. He can slot in as the backup small forward or power forward, depending on the lineup. And Stephen A. was emphatic. The Lakers are getting a player who can fit alongside Luka Doncic or Reeves like a glove, stretch the floor, provide defense, and relieve LeBron of some minute. That's invaluable, especially with load management concerns. And yes, there's the matter of bench construction. The Lakers have been criticized for weak bench scoring, and Stephen A. noted that Laravia addresses that perfectly. He said, "This isn't a guy who comes off the bench and just fires threes. He's fundamentally sound, defends multiple positions, and can create opportunities for others." That's exactly the type of player the Lakers needed in the second unit. Pair him with Smart, and you suddenly have a defensive tandem capable of limiting three-point attempts while maintaining offensive spacing, a luxury the Lakers haven't always had. Stephen A. also touched on lineup possibility. Whether the Lakers stagger Doncic, Reeves, and Rui with Smart and Laravia, or experiment with starting Smart, Laravia adds flexibility that allows for multiple configurations without losing defensive intensity. And he stressed that versatility is key in today's NBA, especially in the West where every possession matters. This is a player who can be moved around, guard different positions, and allow the Lakers to adjust on the fly, Stephen A. said. Finally, he talked about the culture and mentality Laravia brings. Even overseas and in smaller rotation, Laravia has demonstrated poise, work ethic, and adaptability. Stephen A. made it clear that this signing isn't just about numbers. It's about fit, character, and potential. He said, "Jake Laravia may not be a household name yet, but in the right system, alongside the right players, he can change the dynamic of this team both offensively and defensively." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this move is quietly one of the smarter acquisitions in a Lakers offseason that's already full of headline. And finally, folks, Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when talking about the opportunity Jake Laravia has with the Lakers. He made it clear that while Laravia has shown flashes, there's still a lot to prove. Stephen A. emphasized that earning a role on this roster isn't automatic. You have to bring it every night. He pointed out that the Lakers gave Laravia a tremendous opportunity to showcase his talent, both on the defensive end and as a versatile scorer off the bench. Stephen A. was very clear. This is a chance for a young player to step up in a big market with real expectations, and the spotlight is on him. Stephen A. also highlighted something interesting that not many fans might realize. Laravia trusted the Lakers organization enough to come in and bet on himself, even when other teams like the Milwaukee Bucks were in pursuit. Stephen A. didn't say it directly, but he made it obvious. Laravia saw the Lakers as the best place to grow, to develop, and to maximize his potential. It's a vote of confidence in the culture Rob Pelinka and the front office have built, and Stephen A. underscored that point, noting how rare it is for young players to make a decision like this based on long-term fit rather than short-term money. And here's where Stephen A. really got passionate. He reminded fans that Laravia's impact won't just be in scoring or three-point shooting. It's about the subtle things that make the Lakers better as a unit. He stressed the defensive chemistry with Marcus Smart, the ability to relieve LeBron James and Luka Doncic in critical minutes, and the flexibility to fill multiple roles in both small ball and traditional lineups. Stephen A. said, "If Jake Laravia can execute the way he's capable, this Lakers bench suddenly becomes one of the most feared second units in the league." At the end of the day, Stephen A. framed it perfectly. The opportunity is there, the tools are there, and the support from the organization is there. but it's on Jake Laravia to prove he belongs and can be a consistent contributor. And fans should be watching closely, because if he hits, this is a signing that quietly could define how effective the Lakers are throughout the season, not just in sporadic moments, but night in and night out. So, Lakers fans, that's the takeaway Stephen A. left us with. Respect the opportunity, recognize the potential, and understand that Laravia's success will hinge on work ethic, consistency, and embracing the Lakers system. And let me know down below what you think. Do you believe Jake Laravia can become that key rotational piece? Were you aware of the Marcus Smart defensive stat with him? This is the kind of player who could quietly transform the bench, and Stephen A. thinks it's worth keeping a very close eye on him this season. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay tuned, because there's a lot more to come with this Lakers roster. Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back on this one. On his show, he made it very clear that Zion Williamson is the top trade target this season, and it's not even close. Stephen A. said, "Zion is the clear frontrunner. Everyone expects him to leave New Orleans eventually, and the Knicks are often mentioned as a potential landing spot." He pointed out that it's less a question of if Zion departs, but when, and make no mistake, Stephen A. emphasized New Orleans is not planning on keeping him for life. Stephen A. reminded everyone just how dominant Zion can be when healthy. He recalled a game against the Lakers a couple of seasons ago, saying, "He forced defenses to adjust every possession. It was heartbreak when he got injured, but it was obvious. This kid can take over a game whenever he's at full strength." He stressed that Zion is a top 5 talent in the league, averaging nearly 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists last season, while shooting 57% from the field. "He's versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife," Stephen A. said. "Strength, size, athleticism. Few players can match him in one category, none in all 3. Then he turned to the Lakers scenario. Stephen A. asked, "Would you trade for Zion Williamson?" He broke it down. Multiple factors need consideration. Pelicans' return package, Zion's health, conditioning, durability. He reminded everyone that Zion's contracts, $39.4 million this season, $42 million next, $44.8 million after, are not fully guaranteed until mid-July in 2025-26 and beyond. "That's a built-in safety net," Stephen A. said. "Teams can take a swing without being fully locked into that massive salary. That opens the door for creative trade." Stephen A. explained the upside. Acquiring Zion doesn't necessarily mean a long-term financial nightmare. With elite talent and built-in flexibility, he said, "It's high risk, yes, but high reward." At 25, Zion could be a cornerstone alongside someone like Luka Doncic. "Imagine the pairing," Stephen A. exclaimed. "Luka on the perimeter, Zion cutting to the basket for thunderous dunks. The chemistry and explosiveness would make them one of the most electrifying duos in the NBA." He also acknowledged that the Lakers' top targets remain Giannis Antetokounmpo or Nikola Jokic, 2 of the premier stars in the league, but he cautioned that neither move is guaranteed or even likely. Giannis might never leave Milwaukee, given his loyalty to the franchise and the city, and the ongoing uncertainty surrounding his long-term plans makes any trade for him highly speculative. Jokic, on the other hand, has a very different set of priorities. He prefers staying in Serbia, close to his family and his horses, and has expressed little desire to uproot his life purely for basketball reasons. Stephen A. emphasized that these factors make both superstars complicated, if not improbable, options for Los Angeles. Stephen A. then highlighted Zion Williamson as a compelling alternative, saying, "Zion becomes the alternative. The question is, at what cost?" He went on to break down a plausible scenario, suggesting that a trade package involving Austin Reeves, along with a couple of future first-round picks, might be manageable for the Lakers. He stressed that while this trade could be feasible financially and strategically, it is not without significant risk. Zion's history of injuries, conditioning issues, and limited games played in recent seasons are real concerns that any team considering him must weigh carefully. Finally, Stephen A. painted the upside in stark, unmistakable terms. If LeBron were to leave, Zion could slide right into that role immediately. You would have a player putting up 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists alongside Luka Doncic. That's not just good, that's NBA-changing stuff. He elaborated that this combination of elite talent and positional fit could transform the Lakers' offense, provide a new identity to the team, and instantly make them one of the most dangerous lineups in the league. Stephen A. wrapped up by emphasizing the stakes. This is a high-risk, high-reward scenario. Zion could either elevate the Lakers into immediate championship contention or, if injuries strike again, leave them scrambling. But that's exactly why this conversation matters, because the potential upside is enormous, and the Lakers have the opportunity to reshape their future with a single, bold move. And that, folks, is precisely how Stephen A. Smith sees Zion Williamson's potential move. A calculated gamble that could redefine the trajectory of the Los Angeles Lakers for years to come. Stephen A. Smith went in on Zion Williamson again, and I'm telling you, he made it crystal clear on his show. He said, "Couple Zion's offensive dominance with his ability to defend, block shots, and hold his own physically inside, and you've got a prospect that is extremely appealing." Stephen A. acknowledged the concern. Yes, health and conditioning are big questions, but he emphasized that the Lakers have upgraded their strength, conditioning, and medical staff, bringing in some of the best experts in the game. Stephen A. talked about Zion's situation in New Orleans, calling it challenging. Injuries, inconsistent support around him, and a lack of stability. He said, "Transitioning to a team like the Lakers could give Zion both the environment and motivation to truly elevate his game." He drew comparisons to Luka Doncic's improvement in Dallas, saying, "Playing with Luka, competing for championships annually, and benefiting from elite training resources could help Zion maximize his potential." On the trade scenario, Stephen A. gave a realistic perspective. If the price is reasonable, say Austin Reeves plus 2 future first-round picks, it could be a calculated risk worth pursuing. Zion offers an explosive combination of size, athleticism, and skill that you rarely see in the NBA, Stephen A. said. Pair him with Luka, and you've got a new level of offensive and defensive versatility. It's high risk, yes, but high reward. And in Los Angeles, in a championship-contending market, that gamble makes perfect sense. He reminded viewers that Zion should be in the conversation as a top 5 player every year. The stats, the explosiveness, the physical presence, it's undeniable, Stephen A. emphasized. He broke down Zion's physical tool: 6'6", 6'7" height, nearly a 7'10" wingspan, the ability to elevate over anyone. He's unlike anyone else in the league, Stephen A. said. But the key, he warned, is the right environment. Zion hasn't consistently been in the elite category because he hasn't had the right situation. Stephen A. stressed the importance of health and consistency. Last season, just 30 games played. The year before, 70. For a player of this caliber, you need 65-plus games a season to really consider him among the league's best. He said that if Zion can buy in, stay healthy, and hit that threshold, any team should pursue him aggressively. Pairing him with someone like Luka Doncic long-term, explosive, dynamic. Fans would love it, Stephen A. said. He went further into last season's numbers: 28.6 minutes per game, 17 shots per contest, 56.7% shooting. Extremely efficient. Not much of a three-point shooter, but deadly in mid-range and two-point areas. Effective field goal percentage around 57%, with free throw shooting slightly down at 65.6% compared to his career average. Boards, 7.2 per game, including 2.5 offensive rebounds. Add 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and a block per game, Stephen A. said. Zion's versatility is undeniable. He can defend multiple positions, finish at the rim, create plays, dominate inside. He went on to imagine the Lakers pairing Zion with Luka Doncic and a high-level big man like DeAndre Ayton over the next several years. Stephen A. painted a vivid picture for viewers, saying, "That core could be one of the most incredible lineups in NBA history. You're talking about explosive athleticism, elite scoring, versatility, and defensive potential all on the same floor. But of course, it could also present challenges if chemistry issues arise or injuries become a factor. High potential always comes with risk, and Zion is the perfect example of that." He stressed that while the upside is enormous, any move involving a player of Zion's caliber requires careful consideration. The combination of Zion's size, strength, and unique skill set with Luka's playmaking and Ayton's presence in the paint could create a team capable of contending at the highest level year after year. Yet, Stephen A. reminded fans that potential alone isn't a guarantee. The Lakers would need to manage rotations, player health, and team chemistry carefully to make this work. Finally, Stephen A. left the viewers with the ultimate question, framing it in the way only he can. Would you make the move for Zion Williamson? Is the potential reward really worth the risk? He encouraged fans to weigh in with their opinion, whether they love the idea, hate it, or fall somewhere in between, emphasizing that this is exactly the type of high-stakes scenario that sparks debate among NBA fans. And of course, Stephen A. reminded everyone of the basics for staying connected to this ongoing conversation. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for future updates and in-depth analysis. He concluded with his trademark clarity. This is a conversation worth having. Zion Williamson could reshape the NBA landscape if the stars align, and it's exactly the type of move that could change the trajectory of the Lakers for years to come. One of the biggest areas of need for the Lakers right now is adding depth on the wing, specifically a true 3-and-D player, someone who can defend multiple positions while knocking down shots from the perimeter. Whether that player comes in as a starter or a key piece off the bench, this type of role could make a major difference for this roster. Athleticism, perimeter defense, and two-way versatility have become essential for teams with championship aspirations, and Los Angeles is no exception. Several names have been linked to this type of role, with Andrew Wiggins often mentioned throughout the offseason. Other options that have surfaced include players like Miles Bridges, or even someone in the mold of RJ Barrett, who could provide scoring while holding his own defensively. Among the teams worth monitoring, Toronto stands out as an intriguing possibility. There's been some speculation that the Raptors might eventually look to reset or retool if things don't go well this season. Why Toronto? Recent history suggests they're not afraid to make aggressive moves or pivot quickly. If they underperform, players from their rotation could become available. On the other hand, if they manage to stay competitive in an Eastern Conference that's relatively open outside the top tier, they might stand pat. That uncertainty makes them a team to watch, because the Lakers might find an opportunity to grab a useful piece without breaking the bank. In a perfect scenario, a player like RJ Barrett, or even a combination of Barrett and another rotation wing, would be ideal. Realistically, if Barrett plays well and Toronto remains in the playoff hunt, prying him away could be tough. But there are other names, like Ochai Agbaji, who could fit nicely in Los Angeles' system. Agbaji is on a team-friendly club option worth roughly $6.3 million this season, which makes his contract manageable. The challenge would be finding a salary match, given the Lakers' financial limitations under the new CBA. Could a piece like Gabe Vincent be enough to make something work? It depends on how Toronto views its guard depth and overall direction. For Los Angeles, this probably isn't a deal that happens immediately. It feels like the kind of move that would materialize closer to the trade deadline, once the standings and team trajectories become clearer. Agbaji checks several boxes: defensive versatility, ability to hit open shots, and potential to develop into a reliable two-way contributor. Those are the exact qualities the Lakers need to complement their core players. And while other names like Matisse Thybulle or similar defensive specialists could also be options, Agbaji stands out as someone worth monitoring closely as the season unfolds. Another intriguing aspect of targeting a player like Agbaji is the physical profile he brings to the table. At 6'5", With a wingspan over 6'10", he offers the length and versatility that every modern NBA team values. That kind of size allows him to comfortably guard positions 1 through 3, giving coaches flexibility in switching schemes and defensive matchups. Combine that with solid athleticism, spot-up shooting ability, and a willingness to defend, and you have a player who fits the classic mold of a two-way wing, one of the hardest archetypes to find in today's league. Agbaji is still only 25 years old, turning 26 by the time the playoffs roll around. That means he's entering what many consider a player's prime years, making him an attractive option not just as a rental, but potentially as a long-term contributor. He can thrive as a rotational piece right now and has the upside to earn a starting spot in the right system. From a team-building perspective, Toronto's situation creates an opening. Agbaji is currently on an affordable deal, but he'll be hitting restricted free agency soon. Depending on how the Raptors evaluate their roster and cap sheet, they might look to move him, rather than risk losing him for nothing or overpaying to retain him. This could give the Lakers a chance to acquire a valuable asset at a reasonable price, especially if Toronto leans toward a retooling phase. However, Los Angeles would need to weigh the financial implications carefully. The key question is, what kind of contract will Agbaji command on the open market? If his market value pushes into the $20 million per year range, that could complicate things. But if his next deal falls into a more modest tier, something like $12 or $15 million annually, the Lakers might view that as a worthwhile investment, especially given his age and skill set. A shorter-term agreement could also make sense, providing flexibility while giving Agbaji the opportunity to prove his long-term value. Of course, this raises another strategic question. Does acquiring Agbaji align with the Lakers' long-term cap strategy? The front office has made it clear that preserving flexibility for the future is a priority, particularly with an eye toward upcoming star movement. That said, planning too far ahead can be risky. Rosters evolve quickly, and holding out for hypothetical opportunities can leave teams stagnant. The reality is that if Agbaji develops as expected, he'd provide a cost-controlled, defensive-minded wing for years to come, a commodity that often costs far more in free agency. For Los Angeles, it comes down to balancing immediate needs with future planning. If the Lakers truly want to maximize their championship window around their core, adding a versatile, young two-way player like Agbaji, who can shoot, defend multiple positions, and still improve, might be the kind of calculated risk worth taking. The Lakers need to start thinking strategically about players who can contribute now, while also serving as long-term assets. And Agbaji fits that profile perfectly. He's the type of player who provides immediate value without demanding a massive contract. It's highly unlikely he commands anything close to $20 million annually in free agency. Realistically, his next deal could land somewhere in the $12 to $15 million range, maybe a bit higher, if a team aggressively tries to pry him away. Even then, as a restricted free agent, the Lakers would maintain matching rights, which gives them an important layer of flexibility. In fact, there's a chance his market could cool enough for LA to negotiate a team-friendly deal, possibly a short-term contract with a team option or a modest multi-year agreement. Scenarios like 2 years with a third-year option or even 4 years at a lower annual rate are realistic if his market isn't robust. That level of cost control makes him an appealing asset, not just as a rotation player, but as part of the bigger picture when the Lakers inevitably pursue a major star in the coming seasons. Here's why that matters. Los Angeles has its eyes on potential franchise-changing names like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Nikola Jokic. Whether those stars hit free agency or forced trades, the Lakers need assets, both picks and players, to build a compelling package. Imagine being able to offer multiple first-round picks, Austin Reeves, Agbaji, and other young prospects as part of a blockbuster. That's a far stronger offer than relying on draft capital alone, and it gives the Lakers flexibility to act if an opportunity arises. And even if that dream scenario never materializes, having players like Agbaji under control still pays dividends. Should the Lakers land a superstar via free agency, They'll need capable, affordable role players to fill out the roster. In that case, a 25-year-old two-way wing with defensive versatility and shooting upside is exactly the kind of piece you want in your lineup. Picture a post-trade or post-signing core. Agbaji starting at the 2, alongside Jared Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis, and a marquee addition like Giannis or Luka Doncic. That's a balanced lineup with defensive presence and spacing, two things championship teams thrive on. The bottom line is this: adding Agbaji isn't just about the present. It's about giving the Lakers options for every possible future scenario. With him turning 26 in April, the timing aligns perfectly with the team's competitive window. He's young enough to grow with the next wave of talent, while experienced enough to help immediately in a playoff push. For a franchise chasing both short-term success and long-term flexibility, this is the type of move that makes sense on every level. A player like Agbaji gives the Lakers something they desperately need: versatility on both ends of the court. Whether he slots in as a starter at the 2 or 3, or comes off the bench as a high-impact rotation piece, his skill set translates perfectly to today's game. He can defend multiple positions, knock down open threes, and provide that rare combination of size, length, and mobility that every contender covets. Think about the flexibility this creates. On defense, Agbaji can switch across guards and wings, taking on the toughest perimeter assignments when needed. On offense, he can space the floor, attack closeouts, and fit seamlessly into a lineup built around high-usage stars like LeBron and Anthony Davis, or even a future marquee addition like Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is the type of player you can keep through multiple contracts without worrying about diminishing return, because his game is built on translatable strengths like defense and shooting. Another key point: the cost of acquisition won't cripple the Lakers. You're not giving up multiple first-round picks or gutting the roster to get him. Unlike someone like Andrew Wiggins, who, while an ideal fit, might not even be available, Agbaji is a realistic target that could be attainable for a reasonable price. Even compared to names like Matisse Thybulle, Agbaji might make more sense because he's younger, offers more offensive upside, and projects as a longer-term piece. And why stop at one? If the Lakers can add multiple wings in the 6.5-6.66 range, with elite wingspans and defensive chops, that's a game-changer. Having 2 or even 3 true 3-and-D guards wings in the rotation is not a luxury in today's NBA. It's a necessity for teams with championship aspirations. Now, consider the bigger picture. What happens if the current backcourt mix doesn't pan out? What if Austin Reeves and someone like Luka Doncic, should the Lakers land him, don't complement each other as expected? In that scenario, moving Reeves could become a possibility, and having Agbaji in-house provides a safety net. While Reeves is clearly the better playmaker and more polished offensively, Agbaji brings something the Lakers would badly need next to a heliocentric star: elite point-of-attack defense, size, and shooting. Depth and adaptability matter, especially when planning for a roster that could eventually include a high-usage superstar. If your future involves Luka or Giannis, you want as much athleticism, length, and defensive versatility around them as possible. Agbaji checks all those boxes without demanding a superstar salary or a king's ransom in asset. If DeAndre Ayton proves to be the right fit for the Lakers, the blueprint becomes clear. Surround Ayton and Luka Doncic with versatile two-way players who can defend, shoot, and adapt to multiple roles. In an ideal scenario, you're rolling out a lineup of Luka at the point, Agbaji at the 2, Jared Vanderbilt at the 3, Thiaruo at the 4, and Ayton anchoring the middle. That's 4 elite athletes flanking Luka, all capable of defending multiple positions, hitting shots from beyond the arc, and thriving in a system built on spacing and defensive versatility. Picture that group on the court together: Vanderbilt and Thiaruo harassing wings on the perimeter, Agbaji locking down guards and spacing the floor, and Ayton providing size and rebounding while embracing his role as a rim protector. This is the type of lineup that can contend every single year because it balances star power with depth athleticism, and role players who complement your core. It's not just about offense. This group gives you a defensive identity without sacrificing shooting, which is something the Lakers have lacked in recent years. Even Ayton himself has acknowledged he wants to become more of a presence as a shot blocker and defensive anchor. That's encouraging, but the key is making sure he's not left isolated on an island against elite offensive players every night. Adding guys like Agbaji and Vanderbilt helps protect Ayton by containing dribble penetration and rotating effectively. Strong perimeter defense reduces his workload, allowing him to focus on what he does best: cleaning up mistakes, controlling the glass, and deterring shots at the rim. Now, let's talk production. Last season with Toronto, Agbaji appeared in 64 games, starting 45 of them, and logged 27.2 minutes per contest. He averaged 8.3 field goal attempts per game, connecting on 50% of his shots overall. From beyond the arc, he attempted 4 threes per game, meaning nearly half of his total attempts came from deep, and he knocked them down at an impressive 40% clip, technically 39.9%. That level of efficiency cannot be overstated. For a player who brings elite defense and athleticism, shooting 40% from deep on real volume is exactly the archetype every contender is hunting for. Historically, Agbaji is a 35.3% shooter from 3 for his career, but those numbers are weighed down by his earlier stints in Utah and his adjustment period in Toronto. With Utah, he shot 33% on 2.8 attempts per game. After being traded to Toronto, his numbers dipped significantly, just 21.7% on 2.6 attempts, which clearly skewed his career average. The important takeaway is his progression. Last year's performance, 40% on 4 attempts, shows a player trending upward. And consider the context. He hasn't yet played alongside elite playmakers like Luka Doncic or LeBron James, who can consistently create high-quality looks. Add in a secondary playmaker like Austin Reeves, and Agbaji's role becomes even clearer: catch, shoot, and defend at the highest level. Even if he doesn't maintain 40%, settling in the 36 to 38% range, while bringing strong defense, would still make him a highly valuable piece. The Lakers don't need him to become a primary scorer. They need him to thrive in a complementary role, hit open shots, and guard the toughest assignment. That's a formula for winning in the modern NBA. Even if his shooting dips slightly to around 37–38%, his two-way capabilities and defensive versatility make him a valuable asset. Looking closer at his overall game, he attempted 4.4 two-point shots per contest, connecting at nearly 58.7% from the floor, with an effective field goal percentage of 59.3%. At the free throw line, he's hovered around 71–73% over his career. Beyond scoring, he contributed roughly 4 rebounds, 1.5 assists, a steal, half a block, and 10.4 points per game. On a per 36-minute basis, which gives a sense of his potential in a starter's role, he projects to roughly 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 steals, and 0.6 blocks per game. That's a player capable of impacting multiple facets of the game: defending, spacing the floor, and making smart plays, especially alongside stars like LeBron James or Luka Doncic, who can consistently generate quality scoring opportunities for him. Defensively, last season, he posted a rating of 116 with Toronto. While not elite, that would place him among the better defenders on a team like the Lakers, who have struggled in certain areas over recent seasons. His past stints with Utah and Toronto show he can adapt to different defensive systems while providing solid perimeter coverage and switching ability. From a financial standpoint, he's realistic for the Lakers. He wouldn't break the bank, even with a new contract, and represents the exact archetype the team needs: a young, athletic, two-way wing who can shoot the three, guard multiple positions, and bring flexibility to the rotation. Even if he starts off the bench, he provides high-quality two-way production, exactly the kind of depth and versatility a contending team requires. Ultimately, this is a conversation starter, and opinions are welcome. How do you see him fitting into the Lakers roster? Could he be a hidden piece that elevates both their defense and spacing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more breakdowns like this. Thanks for reading, and see you in the next one.